Okay, well, welcome. It's not on. Of course it's not. It says it's on.
It's on, for sure.
For sure. Okay.
I thought it was not for sure, but for high.
He passed away. You hear that? Yeah, that's a sad thing. All right, well, welcome. Did everybody get a ticket? If not, you can see the man in the back there sometime before the end of the meeting. Do we have any new members? Anybody here for the first time? One right there. We'll have you introduce yourself. You didn't know that, did you? You wouldn't have raised your hand.
Good evening, Thomas Portlock, KK7GJG, out from Riverton, and I'm a technician. I'm working on my general, and I'm just amazed. This is pretty cool to see everyone.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else new? Right here.
I'm Doug Dowding. I'm Laird's neighbor, and he paid me to come with him today to make sure he gets home safely. But I've got a technician license, and he's trying to talk me into getting my general, so maybe I'll do it.
Good. Thank you. Welcome. Anybody else? No? I guess that's a no. Well, okay. Tell me about classes. Mike, are you running a class? See, this is how I get my exercise. I walk up, I walk down. I walk up, I walk down.
Good evening. We will be having a technician class starting April 1st, and that's no fool's joke. April 2nd, Monday, April 2nd.
They sent me a note just last night, said April 2nd.
I think you're trying to fool me.
April 1st?
Yeah, see, I knew not to trust you. Okay, April 1st, April 2nd. Yeah, come April 1st, and if we're not having it then, well, then I'll give that one up. It starts at 6:30, runs to 8:30, runs approximately 10 weeks. A lot of people that use our process for studying for the test finish and get their license well before we're done. We'll teach you how to take the test, because basically the test is just a what do you call that? Well, it's multiple guess, but it's a, I just use it too. It's multiple choice too. No, anyway, it's something that you have to go through, but the real learning goes on once you get your license. So we'll teach you how to study for the test. And also James teaches an ongoing class on Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And that's on 147.160, correct? Yeah. Okay, and that's for general. And so you're welcome to join that and get your general license if you already have your technician license.
Thanks, Mike. Speaking of classes, has anybody upgraded since we last met? All right. That's what I like to see.
I just upgraded to general.
Good. Congratulations. Anybody else? See, you can get your general. All right. Rick, what's in the library today? Rick. Yeah. What do we got? You able to hear me? No, not without the microphone. We can hear you, but nobody else can.
Well, it's coming up on the end of the, which was it? Extra class license manual validity period, which ends June 30th of 24. I have one copy left. If you want one and you don't get this one, you'll need to see me about a special order for it. If not, this one's up for grabs. I do have 4 titles that are discounted down. That one's $10. Here's one at 15. Here's one at 10. Here's one at 10. And if you're familiar with AOL book prices, there's nothing that price anymore. So come take a look. And as I said before, if you want something that's not here, or you're not at the meeting and want to special order me, contact information is on the website. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any news to share? There is the VHF Society swap meet coming up, I believe on the 30th, is that right?
Yeah, 30th, Legacy Event Center.
Yep, Legacy Event Center. Gather up all your junk and take it there and trade it for somebody else's junk. Those of you who have been in the club for a while might know Bruce Bergen. Bruce's health is failing, he can't drive anymore, but he has a Yaesu FT5100 that he wants to sell. If anybody is interested in talking to him about that, you can look him up on the UARC website under the member list and give him a call and talk to him. Yeah, field day is going to be upon us before we know it. We're still looking for volunteers to help with field day. If you want to work on field day, okay, you don't have to know anything about field day. We just need bodies that can take a little bit of instruction. Then let us know, okay? All right. Anything else that I'm missing? Nothing? Okay, we're going to turn the time over to Noji Ratzlaff then. Kilo November 0 Juliet India. Did I get that right? Yep. Okay, and he is going to educate us on some of the historical experiments that we don't even know we depend upon, do we?
You never know. Thanks. If I turn this off, can you hear me?
Yeah, you got your own
microphone. How's that? Am I coming through?
Can everybody hear him in the back?
Hello? 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 I can't speak up very well.
Yeah, it's on.
It's on. That work? How about I clipped it to my nose?
Oh, that might work. Testing, testing.
Boo? Is that any better? Boo? No? I'll try to talk loud. I've got a naturally soft voice, so I'm sorry. And by the way, Noji said he couldn't be here tonight, so he asked me, Albert Einstein, to come instead. Now, let me just say that there's been rumors that I've been dead for a long time, but just so you know, you can call me Weird Al if you like. Weird Al for short, but not for long. At any rate, I'm glad to be here this evening, and we're going to talk about a couple of fun things. Let me see if I can first turn off my... Thank you to Bruce for turning on and getting this Jacob's Ladder going. Genius. And I am going to turn over this slideshow now to my own little thing. There. All righty. First, I want to say Happy Pi Day to everybody. Pi Day just happens to be my birthday. Yes, Albert Einstein. Thank you. But there is some bad news. It is also just happens to be the day of the death of Stephen Hawking. That's true. Today he died. I mean, it wasn't today, but you know, some few years ago. So anyway, Albert Einstein born, Stephen Hawking died. Great physicist. Is it a coincidence? You know, I think not. I mean, you know, so Rene Descartes walks into a bar, and the bartender says, you know, would you like a beer, Rene? He says, I think not, and poof, he disappeared. You know, you can tell who's been to college and who's not. Those who smile have been to college. All right, at any rate. Let me just start, okay, the man with the beard, besides me. Say it again.
What was the pie eaten? The pie?
Was the pie eaten?
Was somebody's pie?
So today's Pi Day, you know, because today is 3/14, right? Okay, but also we, at our company where I work, we had a huge Pi Day celebration in which we had a bunch of potluck pies brought in, and it was a blast. All kinds of great pies, so there we go. We ate it in your honor. All right, I just wanted to start out a little bit by getting into this. Can we switch over to this
Yes, sir. You tell me when.
right now?
Okay, you're good.
Let me get back out and get back in then. All righty. Just a quick history lesson, just to kind of catch us up in case we've forgotten a little bit about our history. And what I wanted to do was find out the very, very beginnings of radio, where it came from, where it really got started. And I just wanted to know, you know, what was the first. I mean, we had all these people who went out and bought Baofeng radios, and they've been waiting for decades for it to work. Well, now we can get them to work. So here, what happened was we came along, and back in 1813, Carl Gauss came up with all these crazy ideas about magnetism and such, and he was a genius, a mathematical genius, and yet people didn't really believe him a lot because they didn't understand the things he was talking about. Well, that's okay. You know, there was a guy named Hans Christian Ørsted. He was another genius guy who came along and started playing with magnets and coils, and found out that it deflected, you know, his current. He puts it through a wire, deflects a compass needle, and vice versa. And he goes, oh my heck, this has widespread implications. I don't know what, but hey, at least people can have more fun in the physics lab. It was kind of fun to see that. And then also, that's what he did. Electric current created a magnetic field. Another guy, a French guy named Andre Ampere, in 1825 discovered that you know, when you put current through a wire, magical things started happening. It wasn't just a magnetic field like Hans Ørsted found out, but there were other things happening too. And he found out about the electric field. And then when he did that, of course, then you know, Michael Faraday got involved. Andre Ampere is where we actually got today's electrodynamics. And that's the big field of physics that we talk about when we talk about electrophysics, you know, electromagnetic radiation. That's all part of what Andre Ampere found out. And Michael Faraday put together a whole bunch of things and said, you know what? We can come up with ways to transfer these fields into coils. And when we did that, then we started getting voltages and currents and so forth. And I'll tell you, Einstein, I had a lot of respect for these gentlemen, and when people ask me whose shoulders I stood on the most, well, a lot of these guys, yes, but the one I stood on most was James Clerk Maxwell. And let me just tell you that he was a crazy guy, all right? At least that's what they thought back in those days. What he did was he got all these ideas from all these people, these other physicists, and he sat down one day in his classroom and he figured out mathematical formulas that put all these things together. And they didn't believe him, you see, because, well, after all, he was a crazy guy. I mean, he went in and out of, well, not insane asylums, but the physics equivalent of that. And he was just nuts. And he got all this math together. And when he did, he found out that through math, that light and magnetic energy were the same thing. And electrical energy were all the same thing as well. And he came up with all these he came up with 20 equations and just blew everybody's mind. Now they laughed at him because they couldn't understand him. They didn't know what these things meant. He put these little squiggly things all over the papers, and they were so confused. It wasn't until Oliver Heaviside later on came around and said, well, you know, we can actually help everybody understand this a little bit better. And so Oliver Heaviside squashed these down into the 4 equations we know today. And we still can't understand them, but they look prettier. They're a little easier to understand, at least to some people. So these are them right there. And so this, even though Oliver Heaviside actually came up with these equations that we have now, we still refer to them as Maxwell's equations, bless his heart. So that's how that goes. Now, the thing about Maxwell is that people still did not believe him. They thought he was a crazy guy because they couldn't understand his math and so forth. But he was a genius. I mean, he was an absolute smart guy. It just so happens that there was another brilliant gentleman, a chemist by the name of Helmholtz, and he was a professor at the University of Berlin. And when he was there, he was doing all kinds of crazy projects. He invented just a lot of great things. I mean, this guy in 1871, he came up with the idea of conservation of energy. He invented fluid dynamics, okay? He was obsessed with optics. He had all these different things in physics that he was really good at, he was really smart about, but he really couldn't explain it very well, and he needed to do more. He just felt like he had to do more things, okay? Well, when Maxwell came out with his equations, he felt like it was his object, his obligation to prove him right, because he felt like, doggone it, Maxwell had something going here. And so he wanted to do it, but he didn't have time. Okay, he didn't have the energy and the resources, and so he decided that he would wait till the right student came along to become his PhD candidate. And so, sure enough, how we observe, he was looking for a PhD student to prove Maxwell right, and along came Heinrich Hertz. And he attended the University of Berlin, he applied for his PhD, and Helmholtz says, you know what, this is the guy, I bet you can do this job. And at first Hertz says, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't why I wanted to get my PhD, okay? Well, Helmholtz says, well, either that or, find someone else, but this is your key to getting your PhD. So Heinrich Hertz swallowed the bullet and decided he's going to go ahead and actually prove Maxwell right, even though he himself didn't believe Maxwell was sane, okay? So that's what he did. Here's Heinrich Hertz, PhD student, and one day he was tinkering around with stuff, and he was actually doing that very thing, trying to do various experiments to prove Maxwell right. He tried to do these different things that he thought Maxwell would do in order to prove his theorems and all his equations. And Heinrich Hertz was one of these few, I guess he was just as crazy guys that actually kind of understood some of these things that Maxwell was doing. And so he got in there and tried to figure things out. And while he was tinkering around, he actually set up this Leyden jar, and he started to do this discharging because he wanted to send out these waves, kind of like what Oersted and Ampere was doing. And all of a sudden, across the room, okay, maybe not too far away, a spark happened between two things that weren't even touching what he was doing. He's going, wait a minute, let me see that again. And so, so he started to discharge the jar, and over there was a spark happening. He's going, but how did this work? And so he starts doing more math. And then he became just as crazy as Maxwell. So sure enough, he ended up proving Maxwell right. So there was that device that he did. So this is the first evidence that Maxwell was actually correct. And from then on, professors, scientists, physicists jumped into the ball game and wanted to prove him right more and more about all the other different theories he came up with. And pretty soon, our whole field of electrodynamics was born, and people were actually able to use their Baofangs after all. So there we go. So Maxwell was actually correct. So what I'm going to do right now before your eyes is to do his experiment, maybe not with his things, okay? His apparatus was a little too expensive for me to get a hold of. I had to go to the University of Berlin and steal it. They wouldn't let me, so I had to make my own. And so I made it out of aluminum foil and a neon bulb and so forth. So what I've got in front of me here is this little apparatus here. And this is my transmitter. And my transmitter consists of nothing more than a capacitor, which are these two pieces of aluminum foil stuck on this dipole. And in the dipole here, let's see if this thing works. Right there is a is a kind of a gap between these two. Here's a brass rod attached to one end of the capacitor, another end of the capacitor here, and between this is where I'm expecting a spark. And I have to admit, I had to take my mother's barbecue grill apart, and so I stole her little igniter right here. So there I have it. I bless my mother's heart. She's passed away since then because she really missed this igniter. But I got the igniter off the grill, so here it is right now, and I'm going to use this igniter to create that spark. Because as you might well know, these igniters do that very thing. I punch this plunger, it creates a spark of about 10,000 volts. Not very much current, not very long, and this spark then is created out of the piezoelectric effect inside this little crystal. So if I punch it, I should be able to feel something. So anyway, so this is what I'm going to use now to demonstrate Hertz's experiment and see if I can do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my little projector. I'm going to see if I can hone in on this. It's going to be hard to see. There. Is it in real time? No, not quite. So what I'm going to do is restart this. There is a way to restart this, but I'm not really good at it. So I'm going to quit. And I'm going to come back in here. There we go. And now I'm going to turn off the light, and I'm going to see. First, I'm going to connect this up.
That was in the way.
You're going to have to take that photo with this thing in the way. Okay, let's see if this is going to work here. And I've only done this once in my whole life. And let's see if it can do it again. So I'm going to put it in the focus area. See if the thing can autofocus for us. And it might not.
Put your hand under it and then remove your hand. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Good idea, Marv. All right, so I've got the neon bulb there, and I've got this transmitter on this side over here. Yeah, it's rather close because, again, this is very, very low current. So therefore, it's going to put out very, very low EMI. And it is interference. But here it goes. Let's see if we can see it. Here we are. I'm not going to touch this thing again. Do you see it? Okay. Nothing up my sleeve. So these things are not touching each other. That means that this, whatever happened over here, actually had to jump through the air to the other side. That's magic. Well, or Maxwell's equations, either one. But, let's see if we can do it twice in a row, because twice in a row means proof, right? Well, dude. Okay. All right. Now, it didn't stop there. It got worse and worse. I mean, so not only did Hertz become crazy after doing this, he got even crazier because he decided to give his mother back her igniter and try to take this a step farther. Because you might know that there is such a thing as CW, and I hope we don't confuse Morse code with CW, okay? Those are two different things. CW is a mode, Morse code is a language that you transmit today over CW. But back in those days, there was no Morse code, at least not the way we know it. And so, but there was CW, and people were trying to experiment with it to try to see if we can actually transmit CW, because since a continuous wave was able to continuously transmit something, it wasn't just one snap of the barbecue grill. It was a continuously moving wave. And with that, you can actually talk on it. And this is what Hertz was after. However, he didn't get as far as he wanted to. Let me see if this is working. Oh, no, it's fine. So what I'm going to do now is disconnect this guy here, take down my Jacob's ladder. All due respect to Jacob. And I'm just going to move it over here to my transmitter. So there's not really anything. This is just being screwed into wood. Okay, I'm just putting it there. I don't have to do this, but it's just a little more stable than it accidentally coming off and shocking me in the leg. All right, so I'm just putting it there for just to get it out of the way. So, you know, you're on to me there, Chuck. So there we go. Go, a little length here. Anybody want to sing a song while I wait screwing this in? No, please don't. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just using this as a simple place to hook this thing up is all. And I'm going to hook my little alligator clips back on here. There we go. So all I've done was put the alligator clips from the leads on this power supply over to this same transmitter that I was using before, and I've got this same neon bulb. Now, let's see if this thing is working. I might have to restart it again. Nope, it looks like it's working. Okay, this is real time. So I'm going to turn it on, and if we have continuous wave, then that means you should see the neon bulb remain on. But then I have questions for you. Let's see if this works. Dude, see, nothing touching, right? Okay, see, my hand, nothing up my sleeve, so it's working. So continuous wave works because we have actually transmitted through the air from this transmitter to the receiver. This is a neon sign transformer. It puts out DC at about 10,000 volts. How is it that DC is able to make this thing jump through the air like it is?
Spark gap.
Well, but it's still DC. It is a spark gap. That's true.
I think what happens is you have basically an oscillation of it having the spark and then losing the spark and then having the spark and then losing the spark.
That's exactly right. Yes. In fact, what I didn't show you, I cheated. Okay. And in two ways. But what I did cheat doing was that I didn't show you the spark that in the transmitter, because there is a spark in the transmitter. If I turn this on, you can see.
Just barely see it.
Right. See, there's the spark in the transmitter, and it's lighting up that. See as I get closer and far. All right. So it's actually working to transmit. So the spark has to be there to do that. And this is a spark gap transmitter. And I better turn it off because in 1943, it was deemed illegal. So don't tell the FCC that I did this, all right? If you do, I'll say, Noji wasn't here tonight. Okay. Right? So anyway, this is what he did. Now,
it's a science experiment.
You know? So all in the name of science. There we go. Now. I mean, all we're doing is having fun, okay? We're not doing anything real here. There's no radio signals going through. Should I have given my call sign? Probably, because I was transmitting not only on amateur bands, but the police and the air and the fire, you name it, everything. And this is why Spark Gap was banned, because it's got such a broadband signal, and yeah, you can get into big trouble for it. Fortunately, this thing is very, very low power, and that's why it showed just barely enough on the neon bulb to light up, It was just kind of fun. But so this is the deal. So here it is. I just had this piezoelectric igniter capacitor, which is the aluminum foil, and a spark gap, an antenna of sorts, okay? And this is our receiver, nothing more than a dipole. That's all it is. And this neon bulb that can measure the voltage between those two and the dipole. And then here I'm pushing the button, just to recap, and there I did it, and there is that spark, just right between the two parts of the dipole on the transmitter. And then the neon bulb lit up momentarily. And the same way, we did it with the DC source here, capacitor, spark gap, antenna. And there you go, the same receiver, nothing changed there. And the neon bulb lit up continuously. Now, after all this experiment, Hertz made some conclusions. He had to do it for his PhD, right? I mean, when you do a PhD, you've got to write up a paper, and that's about 500 pages long, defend your thesis, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so he did all that stuff, and he concluded that, number one, electrical energy can be sent through the air. I mean, electrical energy, all right? Which is pretty fascinating. That caught Tesla's imagination, by the way. We're not going to go there. So Maxwell was correct. He concluded that electrical energy and magnetic energy unavoidably interact, and that today we call it electromagnetic radiation. This is where radio starts, with Hertz. All right, and Maxwell was also correct in that light is another form of electromagnetic radiation. We didn't prove that here. I'll leave that to Clint. I think he plays around a lot with light and so forth, so he can prove that's right. For me, I'm stuck with radio. I love radio. Let's see, and also he said Maxwell was correct because radiation has frequency and travels in waves. And he was able to prove that not only in the lab, but on math in the papers. And he was a brilliant genius, okay? Earned his PhD, rightfully so. So he also concluded that these newly discovered things were useless. He says, no, they were fun in the lab. They were good to play with. I mean, look what we found here, okay? They're fun to set up, good to show people. It gets people's laughs, you know, it gets I mean, how many people have fallen asleep? Okay, 2. But besides those 2, most of you stayed awake, and that's what he got. But after that, you know, what good is all this? Well, today, what we do discover, though, is that not only did he get his PhD, but his useless implications were, number one, radio, but also TV, Wi-Fi, cell phones, radar, satellite communication, bodily medical scans. How about that? GPS, navigation, drones, RC craft and toys, radiation, microwave ovens. I mean, yeah, it's pretty useless, but to a point. If only he saw into the future, right? Well, anyway, but that's what Hertz did. He discovered quite a lot. And X-rays too. How about other things? Anything else? Of course. There are a zillion things. I didn't have the room on my PowerPoint to list all the implications that Hertz came up with his useless discoveries, okay? Now, just so you know, please don't try this at home. I mean, I don't want you to burn up your dog or your kids, whichever comes first, but these high voltages can actually injure you. So, you know, be careful what you're doing. If you want to get involved and do something like this, don't ask Noji, he's not even here tonight. You can ask James, he'll help you with that. I'll disavow all knowledge of this. But the radio waves are often outside the amateur bands, okay? If the signal is strong enough. Fortunately, we have a very weak signal here. Cross your fingers. But if you must attempt this experiment, so here's a YouTube link for you. And this link, sorry?
You're Noji.
Who?
No, I know who you are.
I'm Weird Al. Well, but thanks for the compliment. So this YouTube link right here, and this is posted on the UARC website. In fact, on the very front page of that website, this PowerPoint, and in the PowerPoint will be this link. If you go there, you can see a little video of how this guy did it. It's pretty fun. He set it up pretty much like I did, only I did it better. I'm Albert after all. But anyway, so there you go. Anyway, but questions. I mean, where does electromagnetic radiation originate? I mean, does it come from thin air, from a battery? I mean, in my little handheld radio, that's all I have is a battery. I don't have one of these super duper power supplies, you know. And how far do radio waves travel? Anyway, but there's probably a lot more questions than that, I'm guessing. What do you think, Chuck?
It was in my early lifetime. When did we start using hertz as the measurement for frequency?
So hertz became the SI unit for frequency. I believe it was 1869. If I went to my website and I looked up his biography, which I have on my website, okay, I think that'll tell us exactly when that is, but something like that.
Okay. Okay, because all of the radios, back in my early days,
Yeah.
had said kilocycles
Yeah.
on the dial instead of hertz, and then somewhere about 1970-ish,
Okay.
we started using hertz as the term.
And I didn't mean to say 1860. I meant to say 1969.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay.
But question here, and then Chris.
Before then, they had cycles.
Yes. Yep.
And,
We call them cycles, megacycles, kilocycles, absolutely. Bicycles. Yep.
I thought it was roughly then, I just wondered if you knew the exact date, and you did.
I did, wasn't exactly right, but it's somewhere near there, 1969, something like that. I was 100 years off. Chris?
They had been using the term hertz in Europe previously.
Okay.
And when there was discussion about going from feet and yards to meters and centimeters
From
and so
imperial
forth,
to metric.
then there was discussion of using the term hertz rather than CPS. So,
Okay, very
yeah.
good. All right. Any with the random thoughts, please?
Dr. Einstein, you're being kind of modest. You didn't mention that at about 1912, 100 and some odd years ago, you showed that electricity and magnetism were actually the same thing when you wrote your theory on special relativity.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Anyway.
and we didn't even go into that, because what I did was I took the Faraday-Maxwell equation and Ampere's law, and I went at it from two different directions. One is from the permittivity, the other one is from permeability. And I eventually melded those two. I started canceling these things, and suddenly there were boundary conditions I can eliminate, and there were cancellations, and all of a sudden I got E equals MC squared, and then I went really crazy. So
Well,
yes.
you had a little help from Lorentz.
All right,
but-
yeah, Lorentz, and also Rutherford Bohr, you're right.
Yeah. Another thing is that, we went to Hertz because when you get into the math of this stuff, you find it's easier to calculate things in the frequency domain with using Fourier transforms.
Yeah,
And
FFTs are
Hertz,
so nice.
cycles per second has got nothing to do with the omega parameter in Fourier transforms, so that it's just misleading.
Well, and we're into stuff that we don't even want to cover, but you are totally right about that. You're accurate. Yes. Sorry, this looks like an engineering class, but no, this is just ham radio. Question over here, Chris.
well, they found that electricity could be so shocking that it was painful, and that's where they came up with the term hertz, really.
I'm gonna have to write that down. That's a good find, Chris. Thank you. All right. 2 more questions and we're out of here. Can you believe I'll let you guys off early? Huh? Yeah, this is not a long discussion, but it's something I just wanted to entertain you with. Just my experiment to see how many people I can keep awake. All but 2. But 2 more questions. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about, I watch a little video that, like, on antennas, that it's a good idea to squirt some, like, grease, like, on the, contacts and stuff like that. Put some, what's that stuff?
You're talking about dielectric grease?
Yeah. Yeah, get some dielectric grease or something there. Because, like in the Salt Lake area, we get corrosion and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And mess with the contacts in your SWR. And that rain, the water and stuff mess with the SWR.
That's true. Just don't put your tongue on it. So, good.
But, like, what you normally do on your antennas to keep your SWRs down? Like, what is your own recipes, like outdoor antennas and stuff like that?
There's a lot of things you can do. This is outside our topic, but I'll answer that question. There's a lot of things I do to keep my SWR down. Number 1, I make sure that my connectors are tight. Number 2, I make sure my connectors are dry, because as soon as any water get into your connectors, that's the end of your coax, okay? Well, there's more things you can do too. One of the problems I have with my vertical antenna on my roof is the wind blows it, okay? Which is not bad because, it can take a 90-mile-an-hour wind, but what's going on is it being held together by radiator clamps. And when it does that and it starts bending, then it starts moving down, and it gets out of tune. SWR goes, I have to get back up there and put it back up, retighten those things. So those are a couple of things I do.
Make your radio run hot. The same with the grounding clamps, stuff like that. I'm working on this thing out in my backyard. Like, I thought, hey, man, it's either now or never. And I've been waiting a long time to ever set up my HF system, my antenna.
Yep, absolutely.
James, I helped me out get the mast. I've been working on getting that thing up and stuff.
Good.
Finally, I'm doing it.
Oh, good. One more.
Do it tomorrow, because it's a well-known fact that antennas put up in good weather don't work.
All right. 3, 2. Well, Bruce, okay, just in time.
I was going to bring up, Faraday rotation, Faraday cage.
Faraday anything, right?
Farad, yeah. But that's outside this.
Well, he was a friend of mine, but he died. So I can't say much more about him. But Michael Faraday, genius. He put together, he was such a genius, okay, that people started to call his inventions after just random people. Like Bob Transformer and Sam Solenoid and, things like that. It was crazy. All these coils he came up with, where he transferred electrical energy into mechanical from magnetic energy and back and forth. It's like, whoa. And he came up with generators, and generators are like things that move magnets through coils and make more electricity. And it's like, oh my gosh, we can create what do they call it?
He was working with a lot of magnetism.
Yeah.
And the flow of electricity, found out that there's a magnetic flux around a wire that has electricity flowing through it.
That's right.
And also was dealing with grounding and come up with the Faraday cage, which is a way to isolate yourself from extraneous electricity in the environment.
So, did you know he invented the flux capacitor? In fact, I don't even know of any capacitor that's not a flux capacitor. They're all run by flux, right?
The measurement of capacitance is the farad.
That's right.
Named after him.
Yep. All right, well, thanks everybody for your attention. Appreciate your fun demeanor tonight. And thanks to James and Bruce and others for setting this up.
Thank you, Dr. Einstein, or should I say Al? Okay, does everybody have their ticket in the bucket? Okay, Mike's going to come around, collect any that didn't make it in. How many prizes do we have, Bruce? 9. 9, ooh, big time. Everybody gets one. Okay, we got them all? Okay, Linda, 9 tickets.
Okay.
Now, you didn't look, did you?
No. I'm not a braille.
7, 2 more.
2 more.
Okay. Yeah, they didn't braille me, so I didn't.
Let's start doing it that way.
Okay, we got them. The prizes are right here. It's first come, first served, so be quick. Here's the first one. K7 TYL. Next one, K7 RLS. KF7 OZK. Subaka. Brayson Tara or Jara, which is it? Brayson? Okay, this one's hard to read. KT2N2? I don't know. Is that right? What's that say? Okay, the number on the ticket, it ends in 684. Look at your ticket. Who's got 684? Because I can't read this. I'm an old man. Yeah, that could be NNT. Use your imagination a little bit. Okay, next one. K7HSK or R? R? Good. R. Next one. KK7QNP. Last one. N7OVG. Okay, thank you, everybody. Next time we meet will be next month on the 11th, April 11th. I believe that's correct. Be careful going home. Good night.